right. So, algebraic reasoning, we are going to have a quiz on Wednesday. So, today we are going to do a review. The review is in goformative.com, and so I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay. Now, all these answers you're going to put into GoFormative, but first and foremost, I'm just going to show you what it looks like and how we're going to answer these questions. Okay. Now, it says, which equation matches the graph to the right? Now, if you remember from a couple weeks ago, I taught you how to graph on desmos.com. Okay. So check it out. We have this website right here. Now, if you go to desmos.com, if you type that in, you have to click graphing calculator right there in the middle. It might be under math tools, graphing calculator as well. Okay. Now, if you don't remember how to do that, if you are in our Google Classroom, okay, let's say your first period, you could be first, second, or third, doesn't matter. Okay, but if you're in first period, if you go to classwork, if you scroll all the way down to materials, right there, graphing calculator, Desmos. You can click there or click there. Either way, you get your graphing calculator. Okay, so let's say we're at the graphing calculator, and let's look back at our review. Well, I want to type this in, right? I want to see which graph matches this. X squared plus x plus 1. So let's type this in. F of x equals x squared. Now, how do you get the squared? How do you get that little 2 there? Come down to this little keyboard, and the one that says a squared will give you the squared. And there's your parent function for quadratics, right? Okay, so we want what? X. And we're going to try letter A, which is x squared plus x plus 1. Let's try that out. X squared plus x plus 1. Okay. Now, this vertex is over here. Let's actually zoom in one so we can kind of see this better. Okay. Actually, zoom out 2. Okay. I want each of these to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there we go. So you see where that is. Let's compare that with our graph right here. Well, this is opening downward, and the vertex is in the top right quadrant. Nope, it's not letter A, right? Doesn't match. Let's try this next one. Negative x squared plus 2x plus 1. Negative x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay. Well, this is opening downward with a vertex of 1, 2. Let's look at our original. Oh, it's opening downward with a vertex of 1, 2. Hey, so B is correct. All right. Cool. If you graph the other two, you're going to see that none of those match. Okay. It says, what type of graph is pictured for question 2? Now remember, when you have this picture or this picture, that is a parabola. Oh my gosh, parabola. I'm sorry, it's hard to write on this laptop. And it is quadratic. Okay? So it looks like a U or a hill. That is quadratic. That's not linear. It's not a straight line. It's not cubic. I'll show you what cubic looks like in a minute. Okay, now this graph up here is the same one right here, just with those points given to you, right? So what is the vertex of the graph pictured for number 1, which is the same thing right here? Well, if you remember, a vertex is where the it's kind of like the top of the hill or the bottom of the U, okay? So if you look at the top of this quadratic right here, we have 1, 2. That's our vertex. Vertex is either the max or the min, okay? Now, the y-intercept, I hope you know that up and down, do that, up and down is your y-axis, right? So when we talk about the y-intercept, where does this graph cross the up and down y-axis? So if you follow your pen up the y-axis and see where it crosses, that's at 0, 1, right? And then last but not least for this graph, x-intercept. So remember, left and right, that's the x-axis, okay? Now if you look at this, the x-axis from left to right, it crosses twice. So I'm just giving you an x-intercept, one of them, right? So it's either this one or this one. So which answer choice is one of these two right here? Well, I see that this one right here, negative 0.414, 0, is one of my answer choices. Okay. So y-axis crosses the vertical y-axis. X-axis crosses the horizontal x-axis. Okay. Now that's the first half of the review. When you take your quiz, you're going to have half of your quiz just like that. Very similar. Okay. You got to be able to graph. You got to be able to tell me what kind of graph it is, max, vertex, and then also which one of the intercepts. Okay. Now over here, which equation matches the graph to the right? Okay. Now we're going to start graphing this stuff. Let's go back to Desmos. Now, when you're typing this in, let me just delete it all. Okay. The first, let's try these answer choices again. Negative x cubed plus 2x squared minus 2x plus 1. So negative x, and for cubed, okay, instead of this, I'm going to click the little a to the b power button, because that's going to give me a, you barely saw it, but it moved up here, so I can type a little 3 for cubed. And then you press the right button. So now we have negative x cubed. Okay, this is how you get a cubed right here. All right, next one, plus 2x squared minus 2x plus 1. Plus 2x, here's my squared button right here. And then we have minus 2x plus 1. Minus 2x plus 1. Okay, so I graph it, and then I compare it to the graph. Now this one goes up and down like that. And I look at this graph, and it does not match. It does not look nearly that long. So let's try the next one. Positive. So the only thing that changed is this negative became a positive, this negative became a positive. They're all positives. So let's try that one. Same graph, but with all positives. So that's positive, and that's positive. Okay, so look at this graph. Does that match over here? I don't think it looks like this one right here. So I'm going to say no. No A, no B. Okay, now C is just like that one, but with a bunch of negatives. Every single one has a negative sign. Let's try that one. Negative. Oops. Negative. 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 Okay. Now this graph right here, again, let's take a look. Does not look as dramatic as this one. You can see right there. Now, process of elimination would tell you it's D, but let's actually take a look at it, okay? D has the first term and the last term are positive, same coefficients. So this one's positive, and this should be a plus 1. Okay, now you tell me, see that right there? Does that match that right there? The answer is yes, it does. We're continuing on here. So it says, what type of graph is pictured for question number 6? So again, it's not linear because it's not a straight line. It's not quadratic because it does not look like a U. It has kind of like two U's put together. So if you remember, cubic from our puzzle either looks like this, it can kind of look like that, or it can look like that, okay? So this definitely looks like this one, so that is cubic, okay? It is not quartic. We have not covered that yet. So what is the relative max? Now, when we say relative max, we're talking about the top of a hill, relative meaning somewhere on it. Okay, there's not only one max because there's actually points higher than it, but relatively, in what area do you see at the top of a hill? And I see one right up here at negative 0.387, comma 1.417. All right. Now remember, y-intercept, where does it cross the vertical y-axis? So if I look at my y-axis, I come up here, I see it crosses at 0, comma 1. Perfect. Last but not least, an x-intercept. Remember, x-axis is left to right. So where does it cross this x-axis? Well, I see we have one at right here, negative 1, comma 0. All right, make sure you put all these answers in Go Formative and submit it. Should be an easy grade. All right.